Well, thank you for joining me, viewers. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, speaking on how to recognize and heal from covert emotional incest. This is the second talk in this series. We'll just look at the matrix for a minute and get prepped up in our mind. We'll go back now and start the session. Why does emotional incest happen? A fractured family dynamic. Emotional incest most often happens when someone disrupts or damages the parent relationships. Any number of life or relationship stresses might play a role. Okay, work with me, viewers. Number 1, conflict related to infidelity, financial issues, or work concerns. All this usually works around unresolved. Number 2, a contested or toxic divorce. Number 3, the death of the other parent. That's unfortunate. Number 4, physical or mental health concerns, including chronic illness, depression, or substance use disorders. Substance use disorders is a big one now, along with depression. And chronic illness is usually a result of these things. And number 5, physical or emotional unavailability. Let's go, viewers. Parents who lack supportive adult relationships may feel lonely or unsure of where to turn when navigating overwhelming emotions and other day-to-day difficulties related to these challenges. And what they do, they turn to their children, and they shouldn't do that. Instead of turning to romantic partners, friends, or loved ones to talk through these challenges, or therapists, and get their needs met, Hardy Williams explains, a parent might end up seeking emotional support from their child. The child, in turn, may feel as if they need to protect their parent. And I've seen adult sons aggressively try and protect their parents from partners, even. I've stood there and wondered, what are they protecting the mother from? There's no threat of anything, but they will. Because it just becomes an innate part of the way these people respond. Okay. Learning parenting styles. Intergenerational patterns can also factor into emotional incest. Maybe your parent relied on you for emotional support and guidance and expected you to take on household responsibilities. As a natural consequence, you might treat your own child the same way. After all, you never had the chance to learn anything different. You may not even know your own needs didn't get met if you never learned to identify those needs yourself. An unconscious awareness of those unmet needs can also fuel a pattern of emotional incest. If you didn't get the emotional support you needed from your parents, you could try to make up for this lack in your relationship with your child, whether you realize that you're doing it or not. Cultural and social economic factors. The researchers who developed the CIS noted that emotional incest may happen more commonly in certain cultures. Yeah, and this is true. They offer the example of Turkish culture, where parents often, number 1, consider it fairly typical to discuss day-to-day concerns and difficulties with children. Number 2, favor traits like dependence and loyalty over initiative and independence. Number 3, think of their children as both extensions of themselves and their future caregivers. But the dynamic could happen more frequently in any culture that emphasizes these values or prioritizes a high level of parental involvement and control over the child's life. This dynamic can also develop more easily in certain family settings. Maybe you only had one parent. They worked long hours and expected you as a child to come home directly from school and do chores, prepare a meal for the family, and take care of your siblings. This is called parentification, and it's not entirely the same as emotional incest, but maybe they also sought comfort and guidance for their worries and distress, including their, number 1, difficulty making ends meet. Number 2, loneliness. Number 3, guilt for not providing a better life for you and your siblings. And number 4, anxiety about not being a better parent. And I've seen this too in single mothers. I've had single mothers say, I just feel like I owe them something. And these are adults, and it's just not true, it's not real. In short, you ended up taking on adult tasks while also providing the emotional support they didn't get from anyone else. Potential effects from covert emotional incest. Emotional incest can have consequences for everyone involved, and this is the important part. For one parent who turns to their child to get their needs met risks permanently damaging their relationship with their child, because children end up resenting their parents later in life when they realise that they've been put into an emotional situation that they shouldn't have been. But they also miss out on the benefits of satisfying, healthy romantic relationships and friendships. Children simply can't provide the guidance and support other adults can, no matter how mature they are. They also can't fully understand adult relationships and challenges, and to be quite frank, they're not supposed to. That said, emotional incest typically has far more serious consequences for the children who experience it. And you need to write that down. That said, emotional incest typically has far more serious consequences for the children who experience it. So some of you parents need to stop being so selfish and get your lives in order and start protecting your children from yourselves. Although hard to hear or read, Hardy Williams says, emotional incest is child abuse. I'm sorry guys, but that's what it is. Emotional incest is child abuse. Even when this dynamic happens unintentionally, it's still harmful, particularly because it can lead to neglect. Researchers have noticed a number of possible outcomes of childhood emotional incest, including, let's do it boys and girls and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, difficulty individuating or establishing a sense of self and personal identity. Number 2, trouble establishing friendships with peers. Number 3, difficulty individuating or establishing a sense of self and personal identity. Number 4, trouble establishing friendships with peers. Number 5, difficulty forming lasting, healthy attachments in adult romantic relationships. Number 6, difficulty setting or enforcing boundaries with others. Number 7, perfectionistic tendencies. And there's a thing on perfectionism. People with perfectionism hold themselves to impossibly high standards. They think what they do is never good enough, which is a horrible way to live. Number 7, a sense of superiority. Number 8, loneliness. Oh yes, the sense of superiority is a terrible one as well. Loneliness and isolation, feelings of guilt and shame, low self-esteem or a sense of personal inadequacy, and mental health concerns including depression, anxiety and personality disorders. How to heal. Wow. Do some of the signs of emotional incest resonate with you? You want to ask yourself, and you can go over this. I'll put the link to this article below. It's worth keeping in mind that parents do occasionally rely on their children more than they should, especially in times of stress. If these behaviours happen only rarely in your childhood, that may not necessarily translate to a long-standing dynamic of emotional incest, which means people pass in and out of emotional incest. It's worth, but maybe you went down the scale and rated several items, 5 or always, that could suggest some cause of concern. So a good next step might involve connecting with a therapist who specialises in working with survivors of child abuse or neglect. Therapy provides the opportunity for pseudo-education or psychoeducation, which can lead to healing, according to Hardy Williams. Knowledge is power, and having an understanding of what happened can facilitate the healing process. She says, She also recommends journaling, explaining that writing your story and getting your thoughts down can create an opportunity for catharsis or emotional release. And, along with group or individual therapy, support groups can provide the opportunity for both parent and child to connect with others with similar experiences. Support for parents, and this is a big one because a lot of parents won't acknowledge that they've done this or have this problem. If you recognize some of these behaviors from your own approach to parenting, you might feel stunned, perhaps even ashamed or afraid. You had no idea of your actions and shared confidences which could harm your child, much less count as abuse. It can help to remember that emotional incest and other excessive parental involvement generally don't stem from any harmful intentions. Rather, they might come from love, along with a desire to protect and be protected. Of course, the intent doesn't change the impact. That's what makes it so important to get support as soon as you notice the signs. A therapist can help you, number 1, acknowledge the dynamic and its potential effects. Number 2, identify underlying contributing factors like experiences from your own childhood or unmet needs in your adult relationships. Number 3, practice establishing and respecting healthy boundaries in your relationship with your child. Number 4, explore ways to create a support system of adult friends or romantic partners. Number 5, take steps toward healing any harm you experienced in your childhood. The bottom line, regardless of the reasons driving it, emotional incest can have long-term consequences. It can keep you from fully experiencing your childhood. It can also leave you feeling trapped and uncertain when you reach adulthood. These effects may not end with you either. This dynamic can also echo across generations, shaping your parenting style if you eventually have children. You can't change the past. Whether you experienced emotional incest as a child or unknowingly created the dynamic as a parent, but you can work to heal the impact and break the pattern with help from a supportive, compassionate therapist. Now guys, if you need support with this, you can call me. I've got the contact number in the link below and on the pages. We can have a talk and I can listen to what you're going to say. This article, guys, just for those that you want to read it and just check it out, is from Healthline. I'm going to put the link to this in the description for you when I post this. How to recognize and heal from covert emotional incest. You're Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Thank you for joining me. I hope this helps. I know how damaging this is, and it is true. Not everybody's conscious of it, even if they're doing it. But it's abuse, and it affects everybody, and it affects the parent, the parent and child partners, and everyone around them. It's abusive, it's horrible, sometimes not intentional, but it's real, and we're going to get this fixed one way or another. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you for joining me, and bye for now.